My name is Abby. I'm a scientist. I'm a geologist and a marine scientist, and I work with a group of organisms called Bryozoans. I'm also a knitter, and knitting is very much like Bryozoans in some ways. You make each little stitch, and then gradually they add up to be something much bigger than what they started off. And Bryozoans are like that. They're teeny tiny little organisms with a tentacle sheath that comes out of a little box. And they're very, very small, smaller than a pinhead. But they grow next to each other, and next to each other, and next to each other, until you have a whole colony of them growing together. And they might make a little branching thing this tall, or they might make a spot on a rock that's about this big. You might have seen Bryozoans if you've ever picked up kelp and noticed that there's a kind of crusty growth on it. Those are Bryozoans growing as a colony, each little individual connected to the ones next to them. They live a bit like an apartment building, where every different family lives in their own little apartment, but they connect with each other. So if one of the Bryozoans doesn't catch any food, it's connected to its neighbors and can be fed by them. Or if one of them is making eggs and busy, then the others can bring it food. So as a colony, it's a cooperative collection of individuals. We know a lot about Bryozoans because they've been in the fossil record for 500 million years. They make these hard little skeletons out of calcium carbonate, which they extract from seawater, and eventually they die and they break up. And they make a wonderful white sand. And eventually that white sand glues itself together and makes limestone. And that's the limestone that we see around Ōamaru and in buildings all over Dunedin. The white stone that is so lovely to make a house out of or use as a building stone is almost entirely Bryozoan skeletons. So something very tiny, when you put it all together, becomes something much bigger. I shared my love of Bryozoans with an artist named Kate Steeds, and she asked for about 1 million photographs of all different things about Bryozoans, and she produced a book. It's meant to be a bit of a discovery. It's a book that accordions out, and you can look at this side or you can look at the other side, and there's all different images of Bryozoans in it, beautifully painted and illustrated by Kate. She took the most photogenic Bryozoans she could and made this glorious book where people can discover for themselves some of the wonders of bryozoology.